Hello and welcome. In this presentation I would like to cover some things that I personally think many men in the manosphere overlook. Some may secretly understand these things, but I think that it may as well be in the open, for at the end of the day it can only better men's position in the real world. Bar and Stardusk played a vital role for me in understanding my own environment and social surroundings, and how everything around me plays against one another, especially government attitudes towards men and female nature, and how it exerts its pressure against men, and how this pressure is amplified when backed by a feminized government. The consequence of this is an emasculated populus full of males that are supposed to pander to females. Understanding the position of a man in this world, or understanding the so-called position that the state would like to have males take in our society, is one thing, but the red pill causes men to review this so-called position, which causes life-altering changes, usually at the betterment of that specific male that had chosen to make that change. A question can be posed to many men, and that question would be, if you could make the world a better place for men, would you like that to occur? Well, how about another question? If the world was on its way to become a better place for men via a mass awakening through critical mass, would you get in its way? There are some things that need precaution, however, such as organisations or groups trying to infiltrate men going their own way and trying to control MGTOW as a collective to suit the agenda of that organisation, whether it be for monetary reasons or otherwise. In my opinion, A Voice for Men is doing exactly that. In saying this, I actually believe that most men's rights activists are in the struggle for men's rights, and for the right and honourable reasons. But one does not need to be an MRA, a men's rights activist, to be a man going his own way. Does this cause an MRA and a MGTOW to be opposing forces? On the one hand, you have MRAs that have been proactive for years pursuing men's rights, regardless of how limited or unlimited their work was. And on the other hand, you have men going their own way who are not chasing to pursue men's rights and choose to have nothing to do with females, specifically marriage-wise and to a certain extent state-wise. Are they opposing forces? Of course not. As a matter of fact, the consequence of the actions or non-actions of both parties can only pave the way for a better road, a better future for men, even though the latter group is really a group of individuals of men that are focusing on the betterment of their own lives first and foremost, and have a set of fixed rules that they apply for their own selves as individuals. Now, something huge and beautiful is happening right under our nose, and yet most cannot see this. The snowball that is going down that mountain is getting bigger. How big does this snowball have to become before we actually label it as critical mass? Just yesterday on television there was a promotion on a morning news network here in Australia for a book that was promoting marriage, and how there are at least 4 models of marriage. The industry is getting desperate, and this is just proof of this. Is critical mass just reserved for a huge amount of men turning MGTOW, or is critical mass inclusive of men that have turned MGTOW and other men in the manosphere? On a macro scale, every man in the manosphere is inclusive of this critical mass. This is my strong opinion. However, and obviously, this cannot include men that are trying to infiltrate and destroy the ground that has been made by MGTOW up until today, males like Paul Elam. The macro is made up of the micro. We have certain individuals that have shed light on many other men through what some are calling featherweight MGTOW. But what defines a featherweight MGTOW? Does every MGTOW have to do the same task or the same job? Are we even obliged to have a job or put in work, so to speak? Are there levels of MGTOW? Now, if I'm a level 5 MGTOW, surely that does not mean that I will look down upon a level 1 MGTOW. For me, I refuse to get married even if the laws change to draw in men. In my view, married men cannot be MGTOW, etc, etc, etc. But what about porn? I wouldn't even watch porn. Why? Because I will not give the producers and the actors in the porn video the pleasure of having my eyes lay their vision on the images that are depicted within their production, especially the females that act in the porn. And while I'm at it, the females are acting, and I won't partake in being a part of that audience. But that's just me. It does not mean that I will ridicule another man who is a MGTOW yet watches porn. Some of the semantics that are brought up by a MGTOW in the comments section are ridiculous. If he's a MGTOW and watches porn, big bloody deal. If he's a MGTOW and wants to discuss different avenues, well, so be it. Big deal. There are many topics that can be discussed, and it's great when they are. But then you have men that start to state that all this information has been discussed before and we should just move on. Discussed where, when, and if so, so what? This information is sometimes even labelled as recycled material. So much men that have newly become MGTOW won't even know about this information if this information is not recycled. It would just become historic and never mentioned again, and would only be introduced to them if they go back to videos or presentations that were uploaded quite a while ago. What's wrong with recycling? Are we not bettering the atmosphere of the manosphere? Sandman produces a MGTOW video or presentation every day. Now this is not an easy thing to do. He puts in energy and effort on a daily basis and dishes out this information via his MGTOW channel. For me, I have learned some things from his presentations, and I get entertainment for around 10 minutes on a daily basis. Fresh content that provides me entertainment with a red-pilled mindset that I could not find even if I sought for it on a broadcast television. He is reaching a lot of men and creating an awareness which is expanding the critical mass snowball. But who cares about the size of the critical mass snowball? A man that is going his own way would not even concern himself with critical mass, would not even have an iota of concern. But then, why are we all here? I'm not talking about the man that lives in a desert and has truly isolated himself from the world. I'm talking about yourself. You. Why are you here? Do you have concerns for yourself or even other men? How many men like myself were awakened by Bar and Stardusk and then were led to other MGTOW channels such as Sandman's, Raging Golden Eagle, Razorblade Candy, Spetsnaz, Mayor of MGTOW, Vention 1 MGTOW, etc. And how many men were led to Bar and Stardusk's channels from these other channels that I mentioned? If by consequence of a male awakening we metaphorically see a critical mass eventuating, for no matter the reason, do we put a handbrake on it and say, no, this is occurring for the wrong reasons? Can I even ask this question? In my opinion, Sandman's work is just as important as Bar's and Stardusk's and all the other MGTOW channels respectively. In this ball of critical mass, we will have men that have multiple types of mindsets, yet still agree on some of the most basic fundamentals that men must agree on to link these types of mindsets in order for there to be some type of connection. We cannot cause a MGTOW or even an honourable MRA to be expendable just because our viewpoints may differ a little and even in some cases a lot. See, for me, for example, I believe traditional relationships cause men to be expendable, but it doesn't mean that I cause a man to be expendable for voicing his opinion of traditional relationships. As a MGTOW, I am defiantly opposed to Tredcon ideology and specifically marriage, but I can't shun another man's viewpoint to be expressed. This does not mean that I have to compromise my MGTOW. On the contrary, my MGTOW is firm and shall not change, even if the rights of men are given to us by the state. It would be great to stay the same route. We are all allies in a sense, whether we are actively allies or not actively allies. Whether we like it or not, we are allies. Whether it be to better our own paths or better our own and other men's lives, our actions cause us to do both, sometimes without even trying. For example, a man going his own way can be an example of an alternative lifestyle that can be lived for other men that may take this lifestyle into consideration. Honourable MRAs are fighting to pursue the rights of men and even fathers for that matter, which can cause a MGTOW to have a better standard and quality of life and possibly inclusive of family contact. The state is aware of this awakening They know if even ants are migrating to another region, do you not think that they wouldn't know about MGTOW or the inflation of the manosphere? They even know about females that are fed up with feminism, so even females have now begun to fight feminism. In my opinion, they're only doing this for their own benefit, not for the benefit of men. And why now? Why have females chosen now to start campaigning against feminism? Because they are now starting to feel the pinch, the squeeze, and male utility is drying up. Whether we like it or not, every individual plays a vital role in the manosphere. This is inclusive to men that just talk to one another in the real world, men that type up comments on YouTube and other platforms, men that speak up, men that educate other men, etc., etc. Though you may want to criticize another man for not being as hard as a MGTOW that you would want him to be, that MGTOW is putting in effort that can better your life directly or indirectly. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. In the manosphere, we are all allies.